Captain Taejo Kim stood alone in the empty shipyard, staring at the old vessel floating in the restoration dock. The morning sun cast long shadows across the metal floor. His footsteps echoed as he walked closer to the ship called Heritage. The ship was a relic, found drifting in empty space almost 100 years ago. It was built by humans during Earth's first attempts to travel between stars. Most people thought it was junk, just an old piece of metal that belonged in a museum. Its technology was hundreds of years behind modern warships. Taejo ran his hand along the cold metal hull. Dust came off on his fingers. His orders were simple: make the ship look nice for a parade, then send it to a museum forever. It's sad to see such history just sitting here, he said to himself. The Heritage wasn't pretty like modern ships. It was bulky and rough, built for function over beauty. But something about it spoke to Taejo. It had survived alone in the darkness of space for centuries. Captain Kim, a voice called from behind him. Taejo turned to see Ensign Gina Park rushing toward him. Her uniform was perfect, but her face showed worry. She stopped and saluted quickly. "At ease, Ensign. What's wrong?" Taejo asked. Gina caught her breath. "Sir, we just got news from the border. Another outpost has gone silent. The Kravik Armada destroyed it completely." Taejo's face hardened. The Kravik were alien invaders who had pushed closer to Korean space each month. They showed no mercy and took no prisoners. "Any survivors?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "None, sir. Just like the others." Gina's voice dropped lower. "They say the Iron Vortex Slayer led the attack." Taejo felt a chill at the name. The Iron Vortex Slayer was the Kravik flagship, a massive warship that had never lost a battle. It was said to be unstoppable, with weapons that could cut through any shield and armor that could withstand any attack. "How long until they reach our sector?" Taejo asked. "Defense Command estimates 2 weeks, sir, maybe less." Taejo looked back at the Heritage. In 2 weeks, this old ship would be in a parade while real warships faced the Kravik. But something felt wrong about that. "What do we know about this ship, Ensign?" "It's real history, not the museum description." Gina seemed surprised by the question. "Not much, sir. It's from the early days of space travel. Before the Galactic Accord, before we met other species. It was built when humans thought they might be alone in the universe. Or when they feared what they might find," Taejo added. He walked along the ship's side, noticing strange shapes under layers of old paint. "Have our scanners been able to see inside all of it?" "No, sir. Some sections are blocked by old materials our scanners can't penetrate. The restoration team says it's not worth cutting into a historical artifact just to see empty rooms." Taejo nodded slowly. "Get me everything we have on this ship. Original blueprints, mission logs, crew records. Everything." "Sir," Gina looked confused. "The Kravik are coming, Ensign. They've destroyed every ship we've sent against them. The Iron Vortex Slayer has never been defeated." Taejo placed his palm flat against the Heritage's hull. "We need every advantage we can get, even if it's just understanding how our ancestors built ships to last centuries in deep space." "Yes, sir. Right away." Gina saluted again and turned to leave. As she walked away, Taejo noticed something unusual on the ship's hull. Under the faded paint and dust was a symbol he didn't recognize. It wasn't the typical Earth exploration mark. It looked almost like a warning. "One more thing, Ensign," he called out. Gina stopped and turned. "Sir, find me engineer Sun Wukang. I heard he specializes in ancient technology. The old historian. People say he's a bit strange, sir." Taejo smiled slightly. "Strange times call for strange allies, Ensign. We need someone who understands the old ways." As Gina hurried off, Taejo looked up at the massive shape of the Heritage. No one feared this old ship. No one thought it mattered anymore. That, Taejo thought, might be exactly why it was important. 3 days passed. The news from the outer systems grew worse each hour. The Kravik fleet moved closer, destroying everything in its path. Reports said they would reach Korean space in less than a week. Inside the Heritage, a small group worked day and night to bring the old ship back to life. Captain Taejo Kim had not slept more than 4 hours total. His uniform was dirty, and his eyes were red. But he kept working. "The main power system is online," said Minho Park, Gina's brother. He was young with quick hands and a quiet voice. He sat surrounded by old screens and open panels. "But the weapons systems need more work." "Keep trying," Taejo ordered. "We're running out of time." Across the engine room, Sunwoo and Gina worked to fix the ship's strange propulsion system. The old sphere in the center now glowed with a soft blue light. "This technology shouldn't work anymore," Gina said, shaking her head. "Some of these parts are older than my grandparents." "But they do work," Sunwoo replied with a grin. "That's the beauty of it. These systems were built to last centuries." A new voice called from the doorway. "I hope they were built to fight too." Everyone turned to see a woman in a pilot's uniform. She was older, with gray in her short hair and a scar across her chin. "Commander Hyejin Choi," Taejo said in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Hyejin walked into the room, looking around with interest. "Admiral Lee told me some fools were planning to take an ancient museum piece into battle." She smiled slightly. "Said you might need a real pilot." Taejo looked at her carefully. "The Admiral knows about this." "He knows enough," Hyejin answered. "He didn't stop me from coming here." Taejo considered this. Admiral Lee couldn't officially support their plan to use banned weapons, but by sending Hyejin, he was giving them silent approval. "Can you fly this ship?" Taejo asked. Hyejin walked to the pilot's chair and ran her hand over the old controls. "I can fly anything. The question is, can this old box fight?" "It can fight," Sunwoo promised. "Like nothing the Kravik have ever seen." For the next 2 days, they prepared the Heritage for launch. Each person had a job. Taejo was captain. Hyejin would pilot. Sunwoo managed the engines and weapons. Minho handled the computer systems. Gina took charge of communications and sensors. 5 people to run a warship. A skeleton crew for a suicide mission. On the last night before their planned launch, Taejo stood alone on the bridge. The Heritage hummed around him, its ancient systems now glowing with new life. It felt wrong to take just 5 people against the Kravik fleet, but they had no choice. The fewer people who knew about the banned weapons, the better. The door opened behind him. Admiral Lee stepped onto the bridge. "So it's true," the Admiral said, looking around. "You really plan to take this relic into battle?" Taejo straightened. "Yes, sir. We believe the Heritage has weapons the Kravik won't be prepared for." Admiral Lee walked slowly around the bridge, touching the old controls. "You know this is against regulations. Using banned weapons could get you executed after the war, if you survive." "I know, sir." The Admiral stopped in front of Taejo. "The iron VORTEX SLAYER has destroyed over 30 of our best ships. What makes you think this ancient vessel stands a chance?" "Because they won't see it as a threat," Taejo explained. "They'll see an old ship not worth their attention. Until it's too late." Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small chip. "Launch clearance codes," he said, handing it to Taejo. "And blind spots in our sensor grid, times when you can leave without being logged in official records." Taejo took the chip, surprised. "Sir, you could be court-martialed for this." "If the Kravik win, there won't be courts left to marshal anyone," Admiral Lee said grimly. He looked around the bridge once more. "My grandfather told me stories about ships like this, about weapons that could tear holes in space itself." He looked directly at Taejo. "Be careful what you unleash, Captain." After the Admiral left, Taejo gathered his small crew on the bridge. "Tomorrow at dawn, we launch," he told them. "One last chance to back out. After that, we're committed." No one moved. No one spoke. "Then get some sleep," Taejo ordered. "Tomorrow, We take the fight to the Kravik. The Heritage moved slowly through space, its old engines making strange sounds. The ship had left Korean space at dawn, passing through the sensor blind spots Admiral Lee had provided. Now they were heading toward the approaching Kravik fleet. On the bridge, Captain Taejo Kim watched the stars through the main window. The ship felt different now, alive in a way it hadn't been before. Lights blinked on old control panels. The air smelled like hot metal and electricity. How much longer until we reach Kravik space? Taejo asked. Commander Hyejin Choi checked the navigation system. About 6 hours at current speed, she answered. Her hands moved confidently over the controls. This old ship is faster than it looks. Taejo nodded. Their plan was simple but dangerous. They would approach the Kravik fleet, appear harmless, then attack using weapons the aliens had never seen before. If they failed, they would die. If they succeeded but were caught using banned weapons, they might face execution. Either way, there was no going back. Captain, Jinna called from the sensor station. I'm detecting a ship ahead. Everyone tensed. Taejo moved to look at Jinna's screen. Kravik scout ship, Jinna confirmed. Small class. Probably looking for Korean patrols. They've seen us, Minho added from his station. They're scanning our ship. Taejo took a deep breath. This was happening sooner than expected. Battle stations, he ordered. But don't power weapons yet. Let them think we're harmless. The Kravik scout ship moved closer, continuing to scan the Heritage. A message came through on the communication system. The screen showed an alien face. Gray skin, 4 yellow eyes, sharp teeth. Unidentified vessel. The Kravik said in accented Korean. You have entered space claimed by the Kravik Empire. Identify yourself immediately. Taejo stepped forward where the alien could see him. This is Captain Taejo Kim of the research vessel Heritage. We are on a peaceful mission. The Kravik commander made a sound like laughter. Research vessel. That ship is ancient junk. All 4 eyes blinked. Our scans show minimal weapons, outdated shields. You pose no threat. We are not looking for trouble, Taejo said calmly. We can turn around and leave your space. The Kravik showed its teeth again. Too late for that. The Kravik Empire claims all ships in its territory. The commander leaned closer to the screen. But I am feeling generous today. Your ship is so pathetic, it would be amusing to destroy it. I will give you the honor of surrendering now. Then you can watch as the Iron Vortex Slayer crushes your homeworlds. Behind the Kravik commander, other aliens laughed. They were not taking the Heritage seriously at all. This was exactly what Taejo had hoped for. While we consider your offer, Taejo said, may I ask how far away the main Kravik fleet is? The commander laughed again. Afraid? You should be. The fleet is 3 days from here, with the Iron Vortex Slayer leading it. The greatest warship ever built. Pride filled the alien's voice. Your Korean ships run from it. Your colonies burn before it. Nothing can stand against it. Taejo nodded slowly. I've heard stories about the Iron Vortex Slayer. They say it's invincible. Not stories. Truth. The Kravik pounded its chest. Now your answer. Surrender or die. Taejo turned to look at his crew. They all nodded, ready. He looked back at the Kravik. We choose option 3, Taejo said calmly. The Kravik's face showed confusion. There is no option 3. Taejo smiled slightly. There's always option 3. He nodded to Sunwoo, who pressed a series of buttons on his console. Deep inside the Heritage, the dimensional phase shift cannons powered up. The old weapons made the whole ship vibrate. What are you doing? The Kravik demanded, suddenly looking concerned as its instruments detected strange energy readings. Showing you option 3, Taejo answered. Hyejin's hands flew over the controls, positioning the Heritage perfectly. The Kravik ship began charging its own weapons, but too late. Sunwoo fired. A beam of blue-white light shot from the Heritage. It didn't look impressive, just a thin line of energy. But when it touched the Kravik scout ship, something impossible happened. The scout ship seemed to fold in on itself, then simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone, as if it had never existed. Silence filled the Heritage's bridge. Then Minho whispered, "That's what a phase shift cannon does. It moves things partly into another dimension." Sunwoo explained, his voice filled with awe. Their shields were useless against it. Taejo stared at the empty space where the Kravik ship had been. "Now we know the weapons work, but we've lost the element of surprise." "Maybe not," Jinna said. "The scout ship didn't get a chance to send a warning. The Kravik fleet still doesn't know we're coming." Taejo nodded. "Then we continue as planned. Set course for the main Kravik fleet." As the Heritage moved forward, Taejo thought about what they had just done. They had destroyed a Kravik ship with ease, but the real test was still ahead. The Iron Vortex Slayer was waiting. The War Council room was too hot and too loud. 20 high-ranking officers sat around a large round table arguing. Maps and battle plans covered the walls. Red markers showed where Korean outposts had fallen. There were many red markers. Admiral Dodium Lee stood at the head of the table, waiting for quiet. He was an old man with a hard face and tired eyes. When the room finally fell silent, he spoke in a low voice. "The Kravik have destroyed another 3 of our ships near the outer rim. Our fleet is now at less than 40% strength." The room stayed quiet. No one wanted to say what everyone was thinking. They were losing badly. "Our remaining ships lack the firepower to challenge the Iron Vortex Slayer," Admiral Lee continued. "Their shields are too strong, and their weapons cut through our best armor like it's paper." Captain Taejo Kim sat near the back, listening carefully. For 3 days, he had studied everything about the old ship Heritage. He had found strange things, hints about weapons systems that weren't in the official records. But he needed more information before speaking up. "We must evacuate the outer colonies," said one commander. "Pull back to defend the home system. And abandon millions of people," another shouted. "We should gather every ship we have and attack at once." "That would be suicide," a third voice argued. The arguing started again, louder than before. Admiral Lee looked even more tired. Suddenly, the door burst open. An old man with wild white hair and dirty clothes walked in. Guards moved to stop him, but he dodged between them with surprising speed. "You're all thinking about this wrong," the old man shouted. Everyone turned to stare. Taejo recognized him immediately. Engineer Sunwoo Kang, the technology historian he had requested. Admiral Lee frowned. "This is a closed meeting, Engineer Kang. How did you get past security?" Sunwoo grinned, showing missing teeth. "The same way we'll beat the Kravik, by using things they don't expect and don't understand." "Get him out of here," someone called. Taejo stood up. "Sir, I asked Engineer Kang to help me with a special project. I think we should hear what he has to say." Admiral Lee looked at Taejo for a long moment, then nodded. "Make it quick, Engineer." Sunwoo hurried to the center of the room. He pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected a 3D image of the Heritage. "You're all looking for a super weapon, a brand new ship, some magic technology to save you," Sunwoo said. "But what you need is already here. It's just very, very old." The room grew quiet again. "The Heritage isn't just some museum piece," Sunwoo continued. "It contains weapons systems that modern scanners can't even detect. Technology that was developed during Earth's darkest hours and later abandoned." "Abandoned why?" Admiral Lee asked. Sunwoo's smile faded. "Because they were too dangerous, too effective." A commander laughed. "You expect us to believe an ancient ship has better weapons than our modern fleet? That's ridiculous." "Is it?" Sunwoo challenged. "The Kravik expect to face modern Korean ships with modern Korean weapons. Their defenses are built to stop what they know. But what about weapons they've never seen?" Technology so old it was forgotten before their species even reached space. Taizhou stepped forward. I've been studying the heritage for days. There are systems and power sources that don't match any official record. Rooms that seem to have no purpose, or purposes too terrible to record. Sun Wu added quietly. The room was silent for a long moment. Then someone laughed. This is insane, said a young commander. We're discussing fairy tales while the enemy approaches. Others joined in. Soon, most of the room was laughing or talking over each other again. Admiral Li raised his hand for quiet. Thank you for your creative thinking, Engineer Kang. But we need real solutions now. As the meeting continued, Taizhou followed Sun Wu out of the room. They didn't believe you, Taizhou said when they were alone in the hallway. They never do, Sun Wu replied. Not until it's too late. He looked straight at Taizhou. But you believe me, don't you? You've seen something in that old ship. Taizhou nodded slowly. Show me what you know about the heritage. Everything. Sun Wu's eyes lit up with an intense fire. Captain, what I'm about to show you will change how you think about human history. And maybe, if we're brave enough, it will save us all. The heritage dropped out of high speed at the edge of a small asteroid field. Through the main view screen, the crew could see the Kravik fleet in the distance. Dozens of warships moved in perfect formation. In the center was the iron VORTEX SLAYER, a massive vessel that looked like a metal mountain floating in space. It's huge, Jaina whispered. Taizhou nodded. The iron VORTEX SLAYER was at least 50 times larger than the heritage. Its hull was covered with weapon ports and shield generators. It had destroyed entire fleets without taking serious damage. We look like a bug next to it, Haijin said from the pilot's seat. A very small, very old bug. That's our advantage, Taizhou reminded them. They won't see us as a real threat until it's too late. Sun Wu worked at the weapons station, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. The phase shift cannon is charged to 80%. The nanite cloud is ready. The gravitational array is, well, it might work. Might? Taizhou asked. Sun Wu shrugged. It's 300 years old, Captain. It's amazing anything works at all. Minho looked up from his station. Captain, I found something interesting in the old combat manuals. The heritage has audio transmitters that can broadcast across all Kravik channels at once. What good does that do us? Haijin asked. It says here that during the Last Stand War, psychological tactics were sometimes as effective as weapons. Minho explained. Sound, music, or unexpected messages could confuse enemy ships just long enough to gain advantage. Taizhou thought for a moment. Do we have any Earth music in the ship's database? Minho searched through the old files. Yes, quite a lot actually. From many different time periods. Good. We'll use that when the time comes. Taizhou turned to Gina. Are they scanning us yet? Gina checked her sensors. Not actively. I think they see us, but they're not paying much attention. We're too small to register as a threat. Perfect. Taizhou pointed to a spot on the tactical display. Haijin, take us here, between these two smaller ships. We want to get as close to the iron VORTEX SLAYER as possible before they notice us. Haijin guided the heritage forward, moving slowly to avoid attracting attention. The old ship passed between two Kravik destroyers, neither of which changed course or showed signs of concern. They were halfway to the iron VORTEX SLAYER when alarms sounded on Gina's console. They're scanning us now, she reported. Full tactical scan. They've noticed us, Taizhou said. Maintain course. Act like we're just passing through. A moment later, the main screen lit up with the image of Commander Vector. His 6 yellow eyes narrowed as he looked at Taizhou. Unidentified human vessel, Vector said. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. Taizhou stood straight. This is Captain Taizhou Kim of the exploration vessel Heritage. We are on a peaceful mission studying this region. Vector's eyes blinked in different patterns. The Heritage. Ah, The same ship that encountered our scout. The scout that mysteriously disappeared. His upper arms crossed over his chest. Do you take me for a fool, human? No exploration vessel ventures this close to a war fleet. We meant no offense, Taejo said calmly. We didn't realize this area was claimed. We can leave immediately. Vector made a sound like rocks grinding together. A Kravik laugh. I don't think so. You've seen our fleet formation. That information is valuable to your military. He leaned closer to the screen. But I am curious. Why would humans send such an ancient, worthless ship into danger? Explain yourself before I destroy you. Taejo glanced at Minho and nodded slightly. Minho's fingers flew over his console. Commander, Taejo said, before you make any decisions, maybe you should listen to this. Suddenly, loud music blasted across all Kravik communication channels. It was an ancient Earth battle song with pounding drums and screaming voices. The sound was designed to confuse and disorient. On screen, Vector flinched and backed away, his sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the unexpected noise. What is this? He roared. Stop it at once. Taejo turned to Hyjin. Now, full speed toward the flagship. The Heritage surged forward, engines roaring as it headed straight for the iron vortex slayer. They're charging weapons. Jinna shouted over the alarms. Activate the gravitational array, Taejo ordered. Sunwoo pressed a series of buttons. The ship hummed as the ancient technology came to life. Around the Heritage, space itself seemed to bend slightly. The iron vortex slayer fired its main cannon. A massive energy beam shot toward the Heritage, but at the last second, it curved away, its path distorted by the gravitational field the Heritage had created. It worked. Sunwoo shouted in amazement. Their targeting systems can't compensate for the gravity distortion. The inside of the Heritage was cold and dark. Captain Taejo Kim used a small light to see as he followed engineer Sunwoo Kang through narrow hallways. The old ship smelled like dust and metal. Their footsteps echoed against the walls. How did you learn about this ship? Taejo asked. Sunwoo ran his hand along the wall as they walked. I've studied old Earth ships my whole life, but this one was different. Some parts of its history were missing, erased on purpose. They reached a sealed door at the end of a long hallway. Sunwoo pulled out a small device and pressed it against the control panel. The door made a grinding noise, then slowly opened. The engine room, Sunwoo whispered with excitement. The heart of the ship's secrets. The room beyond was large, filled with machines that looked nothing like modern engines. Strange pipes and wires covered the walls and ceiling. In the center sat a metal sphere about 3 meters wide. What is that? Taejo asked, pointing at the sphere. That, Sunwoo said with a smile, is why this ship was hidden from history. For the next 6 hours, they worked together in the engine room. Sunwoo decoded ancient systems, while Taejo translated old manuals and warning signs. What they found shocked them both. Dimensional phase shift cannons, Taejo read from a dusty screen. Nanite weapon clouds. Gravitational manipulation arrays. I've never heard of these weapons. That's because they were banned, Sunwoo explained. After the formation of the Galactic Accord, humans agreed to stop using them. Too dangerous, they said. Too destructive. He looked up with bright eyes. But they didn't destroy them all. They hid this one away. Taejo walked around the metal sphere, thinking hard. These weapons break galactic laws, if we use them. If we don't use them, the Kravik will destroy everything. Sunwoo finished. Sometimes we must break rules to survive. A noise at the door made them both turn quickly. Ensign Gina Park stood there, eyes wide with shock. Captain Kim, what are you doing? She asked. I've been looking everywhere for you. The Admiral wants a report on the Heritage's preparation for the parade. Taejo and Sunwoo shared a worried look. If Gina told others what they were doing, they would be arrested for breaking galactic laws. Ensign Park, Taejo said carefully. What I'm about to tell you is secret. You can report me after I'm done, but please listen first. He explained what they had found. Weapons from Earth's darkest times, technology so powerful and dangerous it had been hidden from history. These weapons might be our only chance against the Iron Vortex Slayer, Taejo finished. Gina looked at the strange machines around them. This is wrong, she said quietly. These weapons were banned for good reasons. Yes, Sunwoo agreed. But the Kravik don't follow any rules. They destroy everything they find. How many more will die if we don't stop them? Jaina was silent for a long moment. Then she took a deep breath. My brother Minho works in systems analysis. He could help decode the older parts of the ship's computer. Taejo stared at her in surprise. You're joining us? You could be court-martialed, or worse. Gina stood straight, her face determined. My parents lived in Colony 7. The Kravik destroyed it last month. There were no survivors. She met Taejo's eyes. I'll bring Minho tonight. He can be trusted. After Gina left, Taejo looked at the strange engines and weapons around him. What they were doing was dangerous in more ways than one. These weapons had been banned because they could cause too much destruction. Are we making a mistake? He asked Sunwoo. The old engineer pointed to a small symbol carved into the metal sphere, the same warning symbol Taejo had noticed on the outside of the ship. Our ancestors built these weapons when humanity faced extinction. Sunwoo said. They didn't want to use them, but they built them anyway, just in case. He placed his hand on the sphere, just in case a day like today came. On board the massive Kravik flagship Iron Vortex Slayer, Commander Vector stood on the command deck. He was taller than most Kravik, with darker gray skin and 6 yellow eyes instead of 4, a sign of pure blood and high rank. Commander, a lower officer called. Scout Ship 37 has failed to report in. It was last seen near Sector 9. Vector made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. Probably destroyed by a Korean patrol. Send another scout. Yes, Commander. But there is something strange. The last automated data burst from Scout 37 showed an unusual vessel. Very old design. Possibly human. This caught Vector's attention. Show me. A screen displayed a blurry image of the heritage. Vector studied it with interest. An ancient human ship, he said, surprised. What is it doing so far from Korean space? Unknown, Commander. The scout was preparing to capture it when contact was lost. Vector stared at the image, thinking. The Kravik had conquered many worlds, but humans always interested him. They were physically weak but surprisingly clever. This old ship might be a trap. Should we alter course, Commander? The officer asked. Vector considered this for a moment, then laughed. For that ancient piece of junk? No, continue as planned. If we encounter it, we will destroy it. Or better yet, capture it for our museums. Meanwhile, aboard the Heritage, things were not going well. The phase shift cannon had used too much power, and now systems throughout the ship were failing. Sunwoo worked frantically in the engine room, his hands and face covered in grease. The power couplings are burning out, he shouted over the noise of alarms. This ship wasn't meant to use the phase shift cannon more than once every few days. Taejo held onto a railing as the ship shook around them. Can you fix it? Maybe. But we'll need to shut down life support on the lower decks to save power. Do it, Taejo ordered. Focus all resources on weapons and engines. While Sunwoo worked on the engines, Minho made a surprising discovery in the ship's database. Captain, he called from his station. I found something. Hidden files about the Heritage's true purpose. Taejo moved to Minho's screen. What does it say? The Heritage wasn't just an exploration vessel like history records claim. Minho explained. It was a prototype warship, built during the Last Stand War. The Last Stand War. Taejo had never heard of it. A conflict so terrible that most records of it were destroyed. Minho read. Humanity nearly went extinct. The Heritage was designed as a last resort weapon. He looked up at Taejo with wide eyes. "Captain, we're piloting a doomsday weapon that was intentionally erased from history." This news sent a chill through the bridge. Gina looked concerned. Why would they keep such a ship? "Insurance," Hyjin said from the pilot's seat, "in case something worse than the Last Stand war ever happened." "Like the Kravik," Taijo added quietly. For the next few hours, they worked to stabilize the ship's systems. Eventually, the shaking stopped, and the alarms went silent. "I've managed to fix the power distribution," Sunwoo reported, returning to the bridge. "But we won't be able to use the phase shift cannon more than once in the coming battle. Maybe twice if we're lucky." Taijo nodded. "Then we'll need to make those shots count." "Captain," Gina called. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple ships ahead. It's the Kravik fleet." Everyone moved to look at the main screen. Dozens of Kravik warships appeared as small dots. In the center was a much larger shape, the iron VORTEX SLAYER. "They're 2 hours ahead of us on their current course," Gina said, moving toward Korean space. Taijo studied the screen, thinking hard. "If we increase speed, we can intercept them before they reach our borders." "The engines can handle it," Sunwoo confirmed, "but it will put more strain on the ship." "Do it," Taijo ordered. "We need to stop them before they reach Korean space." As Hyjin increased the Heritage's speed, Taijo went to the weapons station. The ancient ship had 3 main weapons: the phase shift cannon, now limited to 1 or 2 shots, the nanite cloud, untested, and the gravitational manipulation array, partially operational. It wasn't much against the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, but it was all they had. "We'll reach the Kravik fleet in 3 hours," Hyjin announced. Taijo looked at his small crew, a veteran pilot, an old engineer, 2 young officers, and himself. 5 people against an armada. "Get some rest if you can," he told them. "What comes next will test us all." Chaos erupted across the Kravik fleet. Smaller ships moved to surround the Heritage, while the iron VORTEX SLAYER continued firing its massive weapons. Each shot missed, curved away by the gravitational field. Inside the Heritage, warning lights flashed as systems strained under pressure. "The gravitational array won't last much longer," Sunwoo warned. His hands moved quickly over the controls, trying to keep the ancient technology working. "Maybe 5 minutes at best." "We need to get closer to use the nanite cloud," Taijo said. He turned to Hyjin. "Can you get us within 200 meters of the flagship?" Hyjin's face was tight with concentration as she piloted through enemy fire. "I can try, but it's going to be rough." The Heritage dove and twisted, moving with surprising speed for such an old ship. Smaller Kravik vessels fired at it from all directions, but most shots missed thanks to the gravitational distortion field. 2 Kravik destroyers moving to block our path, Gina called from the sensor station. "We can't go around them," Hyjin said. "We'll lose our momentum." Taijo made a quick decision. "Minho, maximum power to forward shields. Sunwoo, prepare the nanite cloud." The Heritage flew straight toward the 2 Kravik destroyers. They fired continuously, their weapons finally starting to hit as the gravitational field weakened. The old ship shook violently. "Shields at 40%. Minho shouted. 30%. "Now, Sunwoo," Taijo ordered. Sunwoo pressed a series of buttons. From the front of the Heritage, a cloud of tiny metal particles sprayed out. To the naked eye, it looked like nothing more than a silver mist. But each particle was actually a microscopic machine, a nanite. The cloud spread over the 2 Kravik destroyers. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship's weapons went silent. Their engines flickered and died. Lights across their hulls went dark. "The nanites are in their systems," Sunwoo explained with a grim smile, "shutting down everything from the inside." The Heritage flew past the dead ships, continuing toward the iron VORTEX SLAYER. On screen, Commander Vector's face showed rage and confusion. "What are you?" he demanded. "No human ship has weapons like these." "You're wrong," Tejo replied. These weapons are very human, just very old and very forbidden. More Kravik ships moved to intercept, but it was too late. The Heritage had broken through their formation and was now less than 500 meters from the iron vortex Slayer. Suddenly, the massive flagship focused all its remaining weapons on the Heritage. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes hit the small ship from every direction. The gravitational field finally failed completely. Shields critical. Minho shouted over the noise of explosions. Hull breach on Deck 3. The bridge filled with smoke. A panel exploded near Gina, throwing her from her seat. Tejo held her up. One chance left, he said, turning to Sunwoo. The phase shift cannon. Is it ready? Sunwoo nodded. Fully charged. But at this range, using it might destroy us too. We're already destroyed if we do nothing, Tejo said. He looked at each member of his crew. They all nodded in agreement. Do it. Wait, Minho called. There's one more thing we can try from the old combat manual. The dimensional phase shift array. It's different from the cannon. What does it do? Tejo asked. It shifts our entire ship partly into another dimension, Minho explained quickly. We could pass through their shields completely. Can we do both? Tejo asked Sunwoo. Phase shift the ship, then fire the cannon. Sunwoo thought for a moment. Maybe. For a few seconds. That's all we need. Tejo returned to his chair. Everyone hold on. This hasn't been done in 300 years. Sunwoo activated the dimensional phase shift array. The world outside the viewscreen changed, becoming strangely transparent. The Heritage itself seemed to become ghostly, partially existing in another dimension. It's working. Sunwoo shouted in amazement. We're phasing through their shields. Hyjin guided the now semi-transparent Heritage directly toward the iron vortex Slayer. They passed through the flagship's powerful shields as if they weren't there. We're inside their shields, Jinna confirmed. Perfect firing position. On screen, Vector's face showed true fear for the first time. Impossible. No, Tejo said. Just forgotten. He nodded to Sunwoo. Fire. The phase shift cannon fired at point-blank range. A beam of blue-white energy struck the iron vortex Slayer's hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive ship began to fold in on itself, sections disappearing into nothingness as the dimensional weapon tore reality apart around it. The Heritage quickly reversed course, phasing back to normal space just as the iron vortex Slayer imploded. Where the mighty flagship had been, there was now only empty space. Across the Kravik fleet, ships began to retreat in panic. Their invincible leader was gone, defeated by an ancient vessel no one had feared. As the Heritage limped away from the battle, Tejo opened a channel to all remaining Kravik ships. Remember this, he broadcast. The humans of old were not weaker. They chose to seal away their most terrifying weapons in the name of peace. Today, you forced us to remember them. Prayed we can forget again.